Hello, Dr. Rozman?
Yes.
Hi. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you about your work at HeartMath. Recently, I've been reading a lot about the Global Coherence Initiative. And from what it sounds like, HeartMath is developing a way to understand and observe the mental and emotional health of the human race on a global scale. And I was hoping you could share with me HeartMath's vision for global coherence.
Well, that's a big vision. What we've done in our research at HeartMath, we first looked at what is personal coherence and what is the science behind that. And that's a very specific physiological state where our heart, brain, nervous system gets in sync. And when that state's in sync, when we have more access to our higher cognitive functions, and we have more ability to emotionally self-regulate, to change attitudes, to be more in the flow states and perform better. So it's just a global state of better alignment within ourselves when our heart and brain are in sync, and we all kind of know that intuitively.
Yeah.
So there's an actual physiological state, right? So we've done a lot of research on this state of individual personal coherence and developed tools and technologies for people to be able to facilitate people to get into that state and actually have that as more of a baseline state more consistently, getting our heart and brain in sync. So we have the M-wave and the inner balance, heart rate variability, feedback technologies to train yourself into this heart coherent state. And now that's being used socially, in groups, by sports teams to get in sync with each other, by families. And so we call that social coherence, to get some of the dysfunction out of communications. And even between couples, how do you get in sync first before you start talking about your problems?
Yeah.
So you're doing that and talking from a very different level of awareness than if you're just in the reactive mode. And so our whole Global Coherence Initiative is built on the predication that as more individuals get into this state of higher performing personal coherence, and we actually create more of that heart connection of social coherence with others on a true level, then we actually can begin to look at what's global coherence, meaning what happens if there's large groups of people doing this and all over the world, and how does that maybe affect the energetic fields of the planet. So the Global Coherence Initiative is a very fascinating aspect of HeartMath research, where we're actually looking at changes in the Earth's geomagnetic field and ionospheres and solar flares, and we know that those changes affect human heart rhythms and brain waves and emotions and moods. And we're saying, okay, there's a lot of turbulence happening in the Earth's fields, all the climate change, weather changes, different energies. What happens if we get more heart coherent, personally coherent ourselves, and then with each other in our workplaces, in our homes and families, can we help offset some of those effects of those mental and emotional effects from the ionosphere and geomagnetic changes? And can we possibly even interact with the Earth's fields in a way that we can utilize that changing energy for creativity, for flourishing, for more intuition, for coupling with the Earth's fields in a very positive way?
Yeah.
So that's some of the research on individual, social, and global coherence that we're about, and so many people intuitively know that if we put out love or care, compassion and appreciation and meditate and send heart to the world and to people, that it has an energetic effect. It uplifts.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to see if we can measure what that effect is.
Yeah, it sounds like GCI has the potential of almost offering our species. There's all these levels of government and institutions, but as a collective, we don't really think as a whole yet. And so with some direction, like the work you guys are doing at GCI, it seems like we can start to understand, like, what is our objective for evolution? How can we move in a direction where we can create, I like to think of it almost as a global mutualistic relationship, where that type of symbiosis can be something that we integrate to the way we live.
I agree. I mean, a lot of people are waking up to that impulse that there is a way, that we can collaborate, co-create, create that. There's an intuitive knowing, put it that way. And as more of us connect with that, then Global Coherence Initiative is here to help facilitate with research and interconnectivity studies so that we can actually prove it out.
Yeah.
But we will hopefully be accessing these tools and coming together to make a difference more and more and creating energetic global coherence even before it can be totally scientifically proven. But our effort, is to try to do both.
But it sounds like you guys have found some correlation between personal coherence and these changes that you can observe with your measurements and kind of in the global sphere.
Absolutely. There's some really exciting research that we're doing right now in interconnectivity that should be published this year that is indicating this synchronization going on.
Great.
With the
Wow.
Earth's fields. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to read that.
Yeah.
Well, I first learned about HeartMath during a screening of Tom Shadyack's documentary, I Am. And it was just fascinating to see his interview with Dr. Rowan McCready and learning about the electromagnetic field that our heart produces for the first time. I've never really thought of it before. And I've read that our heart actually broadcasts emotional information, which can be received and interpreted by other people on a very subtle neurological level that can be identified with modern science. And I was hoping you could give me a brief explanation of how this works.
Well, the research is showing that our heart rate variability pattern, our beat-to-beat changes in heart rate. Our heart rate's always changing with every beat. Most people don't even know that. 70 beats per minute or 60 beats per minute as heart rate is an average, but that average comes from looking at heart rate speeding up and slowing down beat to beat to beat to beat. And we need that flexibility. You want to have a lot of flexibility to quickly jump up and run or sit down and calm down. And the amount of heart rate variability reflects that. And that's a predictor of all-cause health problems, mortality. I mean, it's just really a key biometric. But on the emotional level, mental level, that's also related to emotional flexibility. So when we're angry or frustrated or upset or stressed, that heart rate beat-to-beat change becomes really irregular and and erratic and looks jagged on the monitor, the heart rate variability monitor. And when we are feeling loving, caring, appreciative, compassionate, kind, harmonious, those positive feelings are reflected in a very smooth heart rate beat-to-beat change. And that smooth change is, or whatever the pattern is, stress pattern or harmonious pattern, the heart is actually sending to the brain. It affects how we perceive, how we feel, how we think, our attitude. But it's also projecting that pattern out with every heartbeat into the environment like a radio wave, like an information, like a radio program. So our frequency of our heart rhythm pattern is going out. And research has shown that, with mothers and babies, that the heart rhythm pattern of the mother or the baby can show up in the brainwave of the other. And that's how we affect each other, with stress or with love. And we are all affecting each other in the field. And consciously or unconsciously, we've done research where one person's heart rhythm pattern shows up in another person's brainwave 3 feet away, and they're not touching and they're not related. And so if we're all affecting each other energetically, then we can take more emotional and energetic responsibility for what we're putting out into the field, what we're feeding the field, as we say. But learning the techniques to regulate or to manage not just stress, but change your physiology, which helps you then change the mood or the attitude. It powers you up, and there's a whole understanding of heart intelligence and how to do that. That can make stress management and emotional regulation a whole lot easier if we get our heart and brain in sync. And so that's part of the HeartMath mission too, is to give people these tools and technologies like M-Wave 2 or the Inner Balance app and sensor that you can use with your iPhone or iPad to be able to learn how to get in sync and what it feels like inside and train yourself into these higher performing states.
Yeah. So with the M-Wave or Inner Balance, you can use it at home anytime, and it can kind of be a constant tool. Just to feed back really what's going on with your heart-brain coherence level and kind of work on self-improvement as much as you want.
That's right.
That's great. That's just an incredible tool. Wow. So can I ask you one more question about the brainwave study? How did you guys find this? Was it using EEG signaling, or?
Well, since we started the HeartMath Research Lab back in 1990, we were looking at the pathways by which the heart and brain and nervous system communicate. So we looked at all sorts of types of biofeedback to see if we could get a window into how people could change attitudes and behaviors and connect more with their intuition or who they really are, their sense of a higher self, higher purpose, all that. We wanted to see what the physiology was. So we looked at brain waves, we looked at skin response, we looked at the heart rhythm pattern, and we found the heart rhythm pattern was the most information because it's signaling the brain and the brain is responding to it. It's a two-way communication between heart and brain, of course, but there's so much information in the heart rhythm pattern that allows us to see how the body feels and how the brain responds, and gives us the power to change our brain through changing our heart and powering up our perceptual changes through that.
And that kind of seems like it's going to become the future of mental health treatment. I mean, at least in the patterns that I'm seeing, is as we learn more about neuroplasticity and our own ability to change our brain. This could just lead such advancement into such advancement of our understanding of mental illness and how it can be transformed. Because I think that's a big problem when someone gets a diagnosis like PTSD or bipolar disorder or even something severe like schizophrenia. It can seem kind of like a life sentence and with a really bleak outcome. And I think that's terrifying for people. So
it certainly is. I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the heart is an input for this and that we can use tools and techniques to help shift what the heart pattern is doing that can power up the positive changes and healing in the brain. We're certainly seeing that with PTSD and trauma. The heart rate variability is a key intervention for trauma, and we're working with Army Wellness Centers and veterans all over on the PTSD.
Oh, you are?
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And traumatic brain injury, all of that. And I agree, there's going to be more and more that's going to be discovered. And, the heart will have is a key part of it. It's not the only thing, obviously. We're going to discover a lot of things with nanotechnology and all sorts of new stuff. But as far as us being able to do something ourselves, to take charge of ourselves, the heart is really essential.
And that's so the M-Wave 2 is available through your website.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just seems like an incredible tool. I love the idea of something that you can do every day. Meditation is obviously great, but having these tools that really can show that you're making improvement are just such a blessing that technology can offer us. That.
Absolutely, and that we can have that window into our feeling world and be able to see where to make adjustments and then see what's going on in our heart rhythm pattern as a result, and be able to train ourselves into a next level of baseline. I mean, that's why we developed the product, and people can go to HeartMath.com and it has a carryover effect. If you use it even just 5 minutes a couple times a day or even once a day, you start to find when you get into that synchronized state, it has a carryover effect into your next activities, into your communication, into your relationships, and you can use it to prepare before a potentially challenging talk or meeting or creative project, and you can use it to reset afterwards if you get stressed out or react and say something you regret. You can reboot your system with it, and that's powerful.
And so the M-Wave 2 is just it's a small handheld device, and you can just carry it in your pocket and use it with. Does it work with headphones or? It
comes with an ear clip that you clip onto your ear. Or there's a little sensor button. It has to pick up the pulse wave to be able to translate your pulse into the heart rhythm pattern. And so there's also a sensor button right on it, so if you don't want to be obvious, you don't have to use an ear clip for the pulse wave, although your hand's free that way, so a lot of people prefer that. But you can see when you're in no coherence or medium coherence and high coherence. And there's 4 challenge levels, so once it becomes really easy to make the shift and into the heart coherence at challenge level 1, you can go to 2 and 3, and then you can it stores your data, so you can synchronize it to your computer and see what the whole waveform looked like and everything after or during a session or after a session. And
so you can monitor your improvements.
Yes, exactly. And there's some fun games that are available on the computer that operate on using your M-Wave 2 that the colors change, and there's music that the game function changes as you're more coherent. And so there's fun ways to train yourself. And you can also there's also the Heart Cloud you can click through, where it'll store your data and give you rewards for practicing and trophies for how long you practiced, for what your achievement level was, to just try to make it motivational and fun to improve that baseline, because that is the key to improved health, to improved performance, to feeling better, is get the baseline heart rhythm pattern into a smoother pattern, whether you're using the technology or not. And that's what happens as you do that, as you practice. Within, usually 4 to 6 weeks, people see and feel some phenomenal change.
Wow. Well, that is such a cool technology. I see more and more so many people that are so serious about improving their mental health and their physical health and emotional and even spiritual health. And it's just having something that you can integrate into your everyday life, I think it's an incredible tool.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with me, and it really seems like the Global Coherence Initiative is on to some really amazing things. Is there a website address to link directly to?
Yeah, sure. People can go to HeartMath.com to order the M-Wave product, and you can go to HeartMath.org to look at the research, the nonprofit, and the Global Coherence Initiative and what's happening there. Membership is free. You can sign up and get invitations to our monthly global care focuses. There's a global care room. We have HeartMath certified coach mentor programs and training programs where if you want people who do consulting or coaching want to integrate HeartMath tools into their practices, if you go to the website, you'll discover all of this, both in one of them, HeartMath.org or HeartMath.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me, and have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye.